I've just made you sound absolutely superhuman, so we'll see what you can do.
Sounds good. Brian said my name's Todd Garrison, Sergeant Todd Garrison from the Mount Pleasant Correctional Facility. I've been there with the department for about 15 years now. And the reason for that is because Burlington Police Department wouldn't hire me. Rub that in. Actually, in the first part here, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna switch it up as I've done other classes. I'm gonna open up to you guys. I want you guys to ask questions for me. What questions might you have for me? About anything?
Becoming a cop your first option.
What's that?
Like becoming a cop, was that like your first choice in life?
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to be in law enforcement. That was always my direction. My brother, he was a state trooper. Now he's with the FBI, and so him and I both share that need to help society. That's really what law enforcement does. Is it helps protect. We're civil servants, so it helps protect the city, the area that we're in, and that's really what I wanted to do. And I thought being a police officer was the way to go, or maybe a state trooper. I interviewed with the become an Iowa State Trooper. There was 400 applicants. They were hiring 2, and I was number 3. So almost made it there. They said definitely go back the next year, but Department of Corrections called, and then I've been with them ever since. Pretty loyal guys, so I've been with them ever since. The pay and the benefits are pretty similar to the state patrol, so I had to stay with them. So, good question. Yep.
Was the hiring process different in all those fields, like compared to each other? Like, is any of them harder or easier?
Yeah, hiring process, it's changed over time. I think the state patrol is still pretty difficult, but I think all around the hiring process has lessened, just because it's very difficult to get good applicants. I see that throughout law enforcement. That's very difficult to get good quality applicants, and that's what we're needing. My brother is a polygrapher for the FBI, right? So he does polygraph tests for them, and one of the things he always told me was that if you're thinking about getting into law enforcement, well, first of all, who has thought about getting into law enforcement? Anyone?
It's an option.
It's an option, right? I would highly encourage it. It can be a very demanding career, but it can be a very rewarding career on the other end. But if you think about when you think about someone in law enforcement, what do you think of?
Force the law.
Force the law, okay. What else? Adjectives. What do you think of when you think of law enforcement?
Helpful.
Helpful? I like that, appreciate that. What else?
Incredibly handsome.
Handsome, right? Brian retired, so he doesn't qualify for him anymore. Okay, go ahead.
Balding.
What's that?
Balding.
You say balding?
Yeah.
Wow.
Hardworking.
Hardworking, okay. Appreciate that too.
Dedicated.
Dedicated. Mentally tough. And physically tough. Can definitely be that for sure. Yeah, good. Anyone else? What about some bad adjectives we might have for law enforcement? What, stressful. What else? Draining. Okay. Anyone else? What's that? Miss holidays, for sure. I'm sure Brian missed a few holidays. Yeah. Yeah. And I want to talk about the draining aspect of it just a little bit. So I work inside of a Mount Pleasant Correctional Facility. When I first started there, it was the sex offender treatment camp of the entire state of Iowa. There's 9 prisons in the state of Iowa, and all the sex offenders went to Mount Pleasant. So my first job was to deal with sex offenders. How draining do you think that was? Right? Mentally draining, emotionally draining, right? But when I first started there was a gentleman there that had worked there for 30 years, and he was retiring. He was his last week. So my first week was his last week after actually he was there 35 years. After a 35-year career in corrections, how do you think he was? What do you think he looked like? Besides growing bald, whoever said that. How do you think he was? Think he was exhausted? Think he was drained? He was one of the happiest people I ever saw. And it was not just because he was retiring. He was very happy, very joyful. Why do you think that was?
He did his job successfully.
What's that?
He did his job successfully.
Absolutely, for sure. Yep. Anyone else? He was just joyful. He had a way about him that was just naturally joyful. And so I asked him, I said, what's your trick? Right? I understand corrections in general, law enforcement can be very draining, can be very stressful. I said, what's your trick? You've been doing this for 35 years. What's your trick? What do you think he said? Any ideas? What's that? Any ideas what he said? What do you think he said, Brian?
If you went in with a positive attitude, you make a difference every day.
That's exactly right. It was about how he approached the job. It's how he went about it. If you think, guys, and this could be any job. My first job, my first boss ever, he taught me a very important lesson. He said, I want you to do a job you hate to do, but do it like you like it. Right? He said, I want you to go at it. Let's say you're a dishwasher. Who wants to be a dishwasher for the rest of their lives? Anyone? Volunteer? One finger pointing? Okay, good. That's good. Right? No one would necessarily wants to do that. But my first boss said, I want you to be the best dishwasher the place has ever seen. Why? Because he said, what's that? For sure. How would I be successful if I approached a job I hated to do, but approached it like I liked it? Isn't that being fake? What do you mean reverse psychology? Interesting. Interesting. Sure, she said it's like flipping your switch in your brain, right? Doing the opposite. Did you know that you can't think of opposites? It's very difficult. You have to do it in your head. For instance, let me show you an example. I need all eyes on me real quick. Do not think of an elephant. How many is thinking of an elephant? Isn't that interesting? So, if you think about something bad over and over and over again, what's going to happen? It's going to be bad, isn't it? But if you think about something positive over and over and over again, if you focus on that positivity of it, what's going to happen? So, if I approach being the best dishwasher ever, he said this. He said, imagine doing something you hate to do, but doing it like you like it. By the way, that's called discipline. Right? It takes discipline. As opposed to motivation, which are two different things. People get them confused all the time. Motivation means that, oh, I really want to make money. Discipline is going to your job every day, day in, day out, and doing a good job at it. Does that make sense? Right? The problem with either one, motivation is fleeting. How many people felt motivated to come to school today? Interesting. Why did you come to school today?
All their hands should have come up because they got to see me today.
Yeah. What's that? You don't have a choice, you're exactly right, but at some point you will have a choice, right? And you've got to be disciplined enough to keep on going, correct? So discipline is, listen up, discipline is doing something you hate to do, but doing like you like it.
I don't act like I like school.
What's that?
I don't act like I like school, though.
You don't act like you like school. So, what happens if you did act like you like school? What would happen?
It'd probably be better, but
What's that?
it'd probably be better.
It would probably be better, but. Is this making sense? It wouldn't probably be better, it would be better. You guys tracking me? How does this guy go into a very stressful career? Oh, let me back up. Let me tell you what my boss said. He said, if you do a job you hate to do, but do it like you like it, imagine what you're going to be like when you find a job you like to do. Interesting, isn't it? Imagine how you're going to attack that when you really feel like you want to do it. Right? Does that make sense? So this guy was passionate, this gentleman who was retiring from corrections after 35 years, of dealing with sex offenders and very, very difficult people. People inside prison can be very difficult people, right? The vast majority of people inside prison, the vast majority of people inside prison get out, right? There's a very small population that don't get out of prison. They're called lifers. And, but the vast majority get out. So when I approach my job, my career, as trying to make a difference. If I can make a difference, a positive difference in someone's life inside a correctional setting, and they will get out, don't you think that'd be worth it? Does that make sense? Stuff, guys. Any other questions? Did I answer that question? What question did you ask?
Like the hiring process.
Hiring process. I'd like to talk about the hiring process real quick. First of all, you have to have a high school diploma. That's number one. All of you guys are on track to do that. Guys, I don't know what you have to do to make that happen. Make that happen. Your chances in life dramatically increases, the quality of your life dramatically increases with a high school diploma. Make sense? Right? So make that happen, number one. Number two in the hiring process is that you have to be able to perform the job. So there's usually a physical test of some sort that you have to pass in order to work for the Department of Corrections. Then there's a psychological exam you have to take. And then there's finally the interview process.
They do like a background check and stuff.
For sure do a background check, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Part of my job duties, what I do inside the prison, is I work in the what's called receiving and discharge. So all the new guys that come into prison, they see me, I give them an orientation. And then I also see them when they're about to leave, whether they're about to get parole or discharge. They also see me too. So I'm the face coming in, I'm the face leaving in Mount Pleasant. Part of also my job duties is that I am a leader of the CERT team. The CERT team, which is this right here, CERT stands for Corrections Emergency Response Team. So we are like a SWAT team inside the prison. So if something goes down, we're there to take care of it. And there is a pretty rigorous physical test in order to get on that team. And then in order to stay on the team, you have to repeat that test every year. So it's a yearly process. Part of that process is getting tased, not just with a taser, but with we use a vest and a belt. So if someone's going to court, we put a vest on them, a belt on them, that if they really want to be stupid about things, we push a button, and they get a 10-second ride of 50,000 volts. In order to be on the CERT team, we all have to go experience that. We also have to experience a level 1 OC burst. OC is pepper spray, which means that we have to keep our eyes open and they spray us with OC, so we have to experience what that feels like too.
Does it feel bad?
It feels amazing.
Oh.
It feels really, really good. It feels,
Which one's your favorite in the taser?
Which one is your favorite, Ryan?
I'll take the taser any day.
See, most people, when you talk to people, they'll say I take the taser, right? Not this guy. I hate electricity. I hate electronics. I still have a burn mark from when I took that ride. I hated it. It feels like you're getting stabbed 1,000 times. It's exactly what it feels like. It's horrific, and I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of pepper spray either, but for some reason I deal with that way better. What's that? In my mind it is, and like I said, most people hate OC, but
OC's that gift that keeps on giving.
that is a true statement.
Keeps coming back on you.
Did I tell you about my OC experience
No.
with lotion?
Oh, yes. I'd love to hear this.
So, being on the CERT team, I get pepper sprayed a lot, right? So I'm kind of, it's not something I'm used to it, but I'm kind of used to it. I've been pepper sprayed multiple times, right? And in actual scenarios, I've been pepper sprayed multiple times to get it called a secondary exposure. Well, going through the process of getting pepper sprayed again, staying on the team. I've been on the team, CERT team for 10 years, so I've been OC for lunches. What I did was, when you have to take a class, and then you get sprayed in the face, you get sprayed in the eyes, right? What happens when you get OC? Did everybody pepper sprayed before? You don't have to answer that. If you ever been pepper sprayed before, what happens is that it hits your eyes, you get it in the eyes, and it hits your skin. And it burns your eyes pretty bad, but it burns your skin really bad. The problem with that is that once your eyeballs lessen, eventually at some point you'll have to take a shower to get all that chemical off of you. Once that hot water hits your face, it reignites, and it just feels like your face is on fire again. Make sense? Cold water, it's just water. I mean, the only way to get over pepper spray is two things: water and time. And water just to take the chemical off, and it's just time. You just have to wait for it to get over with. Just like when you eat something hot, right? It's in your mouth. How do you make that go away? You try milk, that kind of thing, or the one-chip challenge. You guys did the one-chip challenge.
I just wait.
What's that?
I just wait.
You just wait. That's all you gotta do. Same with pepper spray. So I thought, you always have to take this class before you get pepper sprayed, and in the class, they always say not to use lotions, like on your face and your hands and so on. So I was like, well, I wonder why. Why can't you use lotion? And I actually asked the teacher, the instructor, and he's like, honestly, I don't know. So in my thinking, I was like, you know what? Maybe the lotion protects you from the chemical. So on OC day, I put lotion all over my face and my arms and everything. I was like, I'm gonna see if this works. I'm gonna test my theory. I got sprayed, right? Didn't protect anything, right? I still felt all the effects. Eyes still burned, my skin still burned, whatever. That night when I got home, you get in the shower, and you have to shower a certain way in order you have to shower your head first, right? And what I found out is that lotion traps the chemical. So hot water does what to your pores? Anyone know? It opens my pores. So the only thing that I can tell you what that felt like was if someone put dynamite on my face actually Satan put dynamite on my face. That's the only thing I actually feel like. It felt, in fact, my wife was this close to calling 911 because I admitted I was screaming. So, listen, if you ever have to get pepper sprayed in your life or your career, do me a favor, do not follow what Sergeant Garrison did. Do not put lotion on your face. You'll figure out real quick why. Any other questions? Yeah, shift times, when you're in corrections, it can be very difficult to find, to be on a shift. Normally in corrections, the shifts are 6 to 2, 6 in the morning to 2 p.m. in the afternoon, which takes you a long time to get. And then the next shift is 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. And then the third shift is 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So the night shift. Except when you promote, like I did, my shift, and that's all the way throughout the week. So you have 2 days off throughout on your weekend, on your week. Sometimes your 2 days off could be Wednesday, Thursday. So you work every other day. So it's all those 3 shifts, and your days off could be any one of those. I promoted, and so I worked 7:30 to 3:30, Monday through Friday. And you see why I'm not a cop. No, I go to both of the because in law enforcement it's pretty unheard of. And I have holidays off. So it's not bad. It's not bad at all. I was just asked again, I said, hey, are you going to interview for captain? I was like, nope, sure won't. If you give me the same hours and weekends off, maybe. Any other questions?
How is it affecting you?
So affecting my family life goes back again to the mindset, right? How I approach the job. The nice thing about corrections is that once I leave my job, I can leave it there. And so once I come home, I don't have to bring it home. Not gonna lie, I've seen some pretty interesting things working inside the prison. And I don't share any of those things with my wife at all.
Can you hear a story?
What's that?
Can you hear a story?
Want to hear a story?
Yeah.
Who wants to hear a prison story? You guys want to hear one? Boy. Well, I've been asked this before, and I just have to make sure it's okay, because there's some pretty ugly stories. I'll give you one though. It's kind of a fun one. I've told this before in other classes.
We don't care if they're ugly.
No, I'm sure your administration would. Let me ask you this. When you think of someone in prison, what do you think of?
Orange jumpsuit.
Orange jumpsuit.
High bars.
High bars.
Oh, those orange
Orange sandals. Those are all true. What's that?
Bald headed.
Say bald headed?
Yeah.
Tattoos.
Tattoos.
I think of just somebody who's done something bad.
Okay.
I feel like people in prison, like, if they
I don't
don't
really
really
picture like a look. I kind of just picture like someone who's done something bad, like bad attitude.
So let me give you a brief word this right. Let me tell you what a typical prisoner is like. Okay. Someone already mentioned someone that did something wrong. Let me say this first, guys. In the state of Iowa, in order for you to go to prison, you kind of have to work for it. Which means, if you guys do something bad, you break the law, you probably, depending on what it is, will probably get probation. And then once you get that probation, then you go to probation officer. If you start messing up on probation, then at any point they send you to prison. Make sense? So the reason I mention that is because people that typically go to prison have a history of antisocial thinking and breaking laws. Does that make sense? It's a pattern that they share. It's called criminal mindset. That criminal mindset says this: I can do whatever I want. I don't need to follow social norms and social laws. I can do really whatever I want because it's what I want. It's not what they want. So it's a very selfish way of thinking. Does that make sense? So the answer is yes, people make mistakes. They absolutely do. And depending on what kind of mistake they make, but typically it's a pattern of thought that is very negative and very destructive. Self-destructful and destructive to other people. Does that make sense? So when I came to class and I started talking about mindset, guys, I'm here to tell you where your mindset is makes a difference. So if you think about school as negative, 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 you're going to think that way towards school, right? The same thing goes for laws on the outside. If you keep on breaking a law over and over and over again, that pattern is going to develop. Make sense? So guys, watch those thoughts. Make those things happen. Okay. That is the vast majority of people inside prison. There is a very small majority that absolutely do not ever need to leave prison. The reason I say that is because they're psychopaths, which means they have zero conscience. Right? There are those people. There are those people inside Iowa prisons. What is it like to not have a conscience? What does that mean?
They're like very impulsive.
Impulsive, I like that one. Anyone else? I'm sorry. They do whatever they want. Yes. Anyone else?
You don't really think through.
What's that?
You don't think through.
They don't think clearly.
You act and you.
In my experience, they think very clearly. Here's the big one. They have zero remorse. Zero remorse. That's number one. Number two, they have no feeling and no idea or thought about the preservation of life. In other words, caring about someone. It just doesn't happen. No empathy, no compassion, and I mean zero. Now I'm here to tell you guys, have you ever been around someone or been around some place where you get a bad feeling? You guys ever had that? It's like, nope.
You are the bad.
Have you ever felt like you need to, okay, I need to get out of this situation? Have you ever felt that way before?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Right? Guys, listen to those feelings. Listen to those feelings. Have you ever felt bad for someone before? Sometimes yes. There we go.
I usually don't care about people.
What's that?
I usually don't care. Like if it's not affecting me, then I don't care.
Yeah, me too.
I don't care. Coach Todd.
It's not that you don't care.
It's the fact that it's not my responsibility.
Okay. There we go somewhere. Now, let me ask you this. If someone came in this door and they were bleeding, what would you do?
I'll look at them.
What's that?
I'd be like, what happened?
Wow.
I'll just chill. I mean, you're here, so I mean.
Where are they bleeding from?
They just got a gunshot.
Oh, right.
I'm
They
leaving.
gotta run.
I'll probably like step over them and then just leave.
Just leave, huh?
Where does it
That's
go?
good.
It's a gunshot.
My point is that if someone's hurt, would you try to help them
I would.
if you could?
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, like, if they're in the school, there's like a gunshot,
So let me tell you this. What
I
time
don't
is
know, I figured
class
I would
end?
get out, but like,
What time? Sorry. 11:15. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so let me tell you this story then. I'll tell you two of them. The first one's super mild. The second one's a little bit more. I was at, so because I work on the CERT team in Mount Pleasant, I actually work throughout the state. I go through all the states, all the state institutions. I've been to all 9 correctional facilities multiple times, helping with different situations. If you ever heard of Fort Madison is the maximum security prison in the state of Iowa. So it's not just maximum, it's our super max. So that's where the worst of the worst go is Fort Madison. Not all of them are that bad. What's that? Your friend's mom, what's her name? Okay. I was in Fort Madison, and they were on lockdown, which means they were magnetically sealed inside their cells for 24/7. Now, contrary to popular belief in prison, when you think about somebody behind bars all the time, that is not the way it is. Typically, people, when they're in prison, they can usually walk around the pod that they're in, or they can even leave the pod. The pod is a whole bunch of cells. They can actually leave the pod and go to the yard really anytime they want to, except for when the yard closes. Right? Unless something really bad happens. When something really bad happens, the whole place is on lockdown. Make sense? When they're locked inside their cells. What's that?
So what happened?
Why do they go on lockdown?
Yeah.
Oh, they go on lockdown just about every week. So that's how they do. Yeah.
Have you ever had anybody try to escape?
Yes.
Did you have to like track them down?
Yes.
Did you, were you?
I want details.
Has anyone ever fought somebody there? You fought somebody in there?
Yeah. All the time.
Have you ever watched Prison Break?
Yes.
Isn't it good?
Pretty good.
I know.
Not bad. It's not completely real, but yes. Fort Madison Prison, there was an escape there in 2014, 15?
Something like that, yeah.
It's about going on 10 years now. There was a gentleman who escaped. He was in the actual Supermax part, and he was able to pry off part of the shower. He went up towards the roof. He climbed his way through the piping on the roof, and then he dangled off the side of the prison
That prison's tall.
and slid down the gutters
Was it like the older one? Was it before they moved prison?
before they moved.
That's kind of impressive. Very bad, but impressive.
Yeah, and I actually, when we went and got him, because we found him, I told him to get back in the cell and do it again. We'll just watch him, because I guarantee if he would have tried that 1,000 more times, he would have died every time. He just got that one time that he was completely lucky. He should have died 5 ways to Tuesday doing that, but he didn't.
How long did it take you guys to?
We track him down 24 hours. Yep.
Where was he at?
He's dead.
Oh, what?
He's dead. He got interstate compacted in Minnesota and he killed himself.
Like, what, I think it's news. That you guys did.
That's literally what I just said, was a witness keeping.
Have you ever had somebody that's escaped and like, you've never been able to catch?
No. No. Everyone's an escape shot. But escapes don't happen they happen very rarely. And when they do, they're not typically, they're not successful.
So I like what was the reason they made the new prison and switched all the inmates?
Because that one was old. It was built in 1839. It was the oldest prison west of the Mississippi, and it was going downhill pretty fast.
I heard there was like a tour in there, but they only showed like the newer part.
Nope. In fact, I've been involved in those tours, and they show the old ranges too. Yeah, for sure. So, any other questions?
I wanna hear.
So back to my story, right? So I was at ISP, and I was walking along the range, just checking the cells, make sure everyone was in there, and I walked by a cell. I looked in, and I saw someone kind of in the side, off the side, or whatever. But I was walking by the cell. The guy came up to the cell door, there's just a small little slit in the side door. And he said, he called me by name. He's like, "Hey, Garrison." And when he said it, guys, I just had that really, really bad feeling.
Like that,
You know what I'm talking about? Like that gut feeling of like something's off, right? I felt it as soon as he said my name. And I turned around and I went back to him and I talked to him. And this guy, who was still there as a matter of fact, it was like I was looking into, when I looked into his eyes, it was like looking into evil. That's just the word that I can use, man. It was very, very distinct. And I have no doubt that this guy got out, he has zero remorse about anything. He has zero idea what life is. What's that?
what do you have to say?
He was just asking me how long they're gonna be in lockdown. And I said, I was like, I don't know, I'm not sure. I was like, do you need anything? Because they're in lockdown, so they have to, so we're really their caretakers. I asked him if he needed anything. He was like, no, I'm good, appreciate it. And the reason I tell that story is just because there are definitely those people out there that have that way about them. The second story is kind of fun. So, in prison, there's levels in prison. If you go to prison, like I said, you pretty much walk around. You don't have to stay in your cell 24/7. The only time you have to be in your cell is after 9 o'clock at night. After 9 o'clock at night, you're locked into your cell, can't come out, you're stuck in there. Sometimes with multiple people, right? Sometimes we ask them to come out in the mornings, they come out of their cells, but sometimes people refuse to come out, right? Or they'll cover themselves. What's that? We still have to count them. So we count them about every 2 hours at night, just to make sure they're all still there. Counts the most important part of prison. And so we were, this guy was in disciplinary detention. In other words, he got into a fight with someone, beat him up pretty bad. He was kind of a big, strong guy. He beat this other guy up pretty bad. So he got in DD, it was called disciplinary detention, which means he get into another cell, not the cell he lives in, but another cell where they have to stay in there for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, except for 3 hours a week. So 3 hours a week you get to come out. And when you get to come out, you were escorted in full chains, full restraints to another small cell where you can take a shower. That's it. No, you can take it. So it's a 1 hour to shower and exercise, do whatever you want to do in that small little room. And that size of the room is probably the size of, see these two tables right here? If we cut it off, it was about that size, maybe a little smaller. You can shower and exercise for an hour, 3 times a week in that room. Otherwise, you're in your locked cell. Imagine being in a locked place 24/7, except for 3 hours.
Well, like how long do they have to?
Depends on what they did and how long they need to be in there. So this guy was happened to be in there for 30 days. I've seen as long as up to 6 months.
Wow.
How many people are in the prison?
In Mount Pleasant, there's 1,100. Through the state of Iowa, there's about 10,000. This guy, he refused to come out of his cell. Right? Refused to come out. In other words, the only way he comes out is that he has those little food port. He puts his hands through to get cuffed. Because the only time someone comes out of that locked place is that they're in full restraints. If he refused to come to that port to get cuffed, then we have to try to negotiate him to come out. And when I say negotiate, it's not like a negotiation class. It's like, you're gonna come out or aggression will be used. The others will force them. So we win every time. It's just how much difficulty they want to put themselves through and us through. Typically, the first thing that we do, if they refuse to come out, we give them directives. We have to give them 3 directives. If they do not come out, what we'll do is we'll take pepper spray and we'll spray inside the cell, spray at him. What pepper spray does, obviously we just talked about, right? It's kind of incapacitates you. It's not a very nice feeling. Pepper spray, even pepper spray today, especially in correctional setting, has gotten way more sophisticated. Typically what people do is they will cover their face or cover the door with a mattress. There's a little mattress in there so they don't get pepper sprayed. Now they have pepper spray, it's called ionized pepper spray, which means you spray it inside the cell and it permeates everything, including the mattress. So there's no way to get over it. Permeates clothes, permeates everything. So there's no way to get around it. That stuff is nasty stuff. I just went through it last week, which is really gross, really bad anyway. This guy refused to come out of his cell, so we were going to use this pepper spray. It's called a OC Stream, which is looks like a little fire extinguisher that we spray inside the cell. We have a little wand and we spray inside the cell. This guy refused to come out, so what we'll do usually is we'll spray the person and we'll just let him sit until he wants to comply and puts his hands out. This guy, who was a little off, we put the wand in to go spray him, and he went like this.
Oh.
He took a full-on spray in his mouth and in his eyes.
Sure, that does not taste good.
And then after that, guess what he did?
Cried.
Nope, he sat down in his bed and just kind of waited for us. Because at that point, at some point we're gonna have to open the door, and there's usually 5 people lined up. Those 5 people will go in and we'll do what's called the cell extraction, which means we'll go get the person, we have to decontaminate them, all that stuff, right? This guy took a full shot to the face and to the mouth, and he went down and sat in his bed and started eating it. Like, eating the pepper spray. And he was unfazed. So that means, is that was like, well, we're gonna have to open this door and go get him. So we had to open the door. The first person there was a shield, usually. And
I'd be scared to go near him.
wasn't my favorite thing to do that day. This guy was probably 6'3", probably weighed about 300 pounds.
Yeah, no.
So the door slid open. We went in with the shield, 4 guys behind us, and there's also someone that's working a video camera. You have to record all these movements. And so we went in to get him, and then he started to fight us, which was the worst thing possible. So first thing happens to that shield is really just it's a handle for the guy. He grabbed the shield, he kind of throws the shield, which throws the guy holding the shield, and it's a mess. So then the 4 other guys, what usually happens is they go for a limb. So the second guy will go for the right arm, the 3rd guy will go for the left arm, the 4th guy goes for the right leg, say, and then the 5th guy goes for the other leg, right? That's usually how that works, except it never works out that way, ever, right? You just find what's open, you grab it, right? And then he's full of pepper spray too, right? So guess what? So it's delightful, but usually what happens is, after that whole thing is done, we're usually bumping fists saying, hey, good job. That was fun.
How'd you do?
What's that?
How'd you do?
How did I get him?
Like how?
Just force. I mean, you force him on the ground, put him in restraints. After you get him in restraints, then we take him to a shower, we have him wash all that stuff off. It's like, you might want to open your mouth, dude. He's like, no, I'm good. Okay. That's good. That's a very tame story. You can imagine what happens in Preside prison, guys. And let me talk about this real quick. Guys, prison is for no one. It's not a place for certainly any one of you. The reason I say that is because there's some pretty horrible things that happen inside prison. One of which, there's legislation that was passed several years ago called PREA. Have you know what that is or heard about that?
What?
It's called PREA. It means the Prison Rape Elimination Act. Which means they make it a federal crime for one inmate to sexually assault another inmate. I'm here to tell you guys, I've seen some pretty horrible things when it comes to that. So if that is enough of a deterrent for you to keep yourselves on the right side of the law and to keep on doing the right things, I hope that is, because prison is no place for anyone. Those same people that have zero respect for life and have zero remorse, well, they can enact that on people without just killing them. So it can be very difficult sometimes. And prison is no place for anyone. We can't end it on that note. We're gonna have something lighter than that. Any other questions, comments, thoughts?
No.
Who's ever thought about getting in corrections?
Nope.
Become a correctional officer, not going to prison.
Okay, I'll end it on this note. Pretty typically, what I see in my 15 years is that there's one kind of inmate that does really well when they get out. Like, very well when they get out. What do you think that one marker is? Anyone, any idea?
The same people?
What's that?
The same people?
No. It's the guys that have done a long time. So 15 years plus, in other words, they've been in prison for 15, 20 years, usually that breaks them. Where they get out, it's like, okay, I'm gonna try and make this work. Not all the time, but the vast majority of guys that do well are the guys that have served a lot of time, a lot of sentences. The biggest troublemakers that we have, by far, are the ones that are serving very small sentences.
Because they're not getting out soon.
Yeah. And what I've seen is they end up doing life sentences in increments. You guys tracking me?
Yeah.
Now, one of my workers, inmate workers, he works in my office. He's a lifer. First degree murder. He's been in prison for a long time. Over 30 years, almost 40 years. And he's one of the nicest guys you ever talked to. And honestly, I have no doubt that if he did get out of prison, which he won't, he'll die inside prison. But if he did get out of prison, I have no doubt that he wouldn't be much of an issue in society. Isn't that interesting? So my light story is this. When I first got to Mount Pleasant, I worked with a gentleman who was on my unit. Officers on a unit, there's usually 90 inmates to one officer. So you see the odds aren't very great. This one gentleman was, he was inside, it was a first degree robbery, which means that he used a weapon to hold up a convenience store. If you use a weapon while you're holding a convenience store up, that means you have an 85% kicker, which means you have to serve at least 85% of your sentence before you're eligible for parole. He had been in prison for 17 years. 17 years. And he was about to get out. He got out, right? Very respectful inmate inside prison, one of the best inmates I ever had. He did a really bad decision because he was around the wrong people and making bad decisions when he was young. Right? That makes a huge difference, guys. Who you hang around with is going to make a difference in your life. He got out of prison, and actually, just about 2 weeks ago, I saw him inside Walmart. He is doing very well for himself. He has a great job. He's married, and he has a kid. Doing great. I see that over and over and over again. Guys who are doing the long sentences typically do very well outside of prison. I mean straight. I mean like 15 years straight, not just in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. Any other questions?
Have you ever made a question?
Sure.
If someone does pass away in their cell, what do you do?
It's actually a CERT team handle, so that means the CERT team has to go in and get them. We have to secure the scene. Then we have to take the body. We have to secure the body in a different place. We have to fingerprint the body, and then call the authorities. Yep.
Has there ever been a fight where like someone died?
Okay, one more quick story. Quick. This happened just not that long ago. There was a guy who was a very well-known MMA fighter. Can't say who it is, but he's a very well-known MMA fighter. He was inside Mount Pleasant Correctional Facility. His buddy got stabbed. Really bad stabbing. The guy who did the stabbing, right? He went to go find his buddy because he was going to try to stab this guy, this MMA fighter, right? But the MMA fighter found him first.
Oh,
So the guy who did the stabbing was walking down some steps. The MMA fighter was walking up some steps, and he had one shot to his face. One shot. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. This MMA fighter was about 6'1", about 325. And what this guy did to this guy's face with one shot, I was like, oh my gosh, that was impressive. I mean, his front gums and teeth were in his throat.
You said you will say the name?
What's that?
You said you will say the name?
No, I won't say the name.
It's okay, you want to.
I've never seen anything like that.
Has to be someone that
I've never seen anything like that. And I saw the guy, I was like, dude, open your face, open your mouth. What's going on with your mouth? And it was like, his teeth was like back here. His gums and his teeth were back there. Like, still attached to his face, but back there. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah. It was broken. His jaw was broken and his gums were all the way back there and he was hating life.
Yeah, I made a mistake as far.
He's like, I probably shouldn't have stabbed anyone today. Maybe that was my problem.
What did MMA fighter do to get in there? If it's allegedly told.
Something bad.
oh.
Yep.
Probably like a D.
Yeah, I know, I thought about the same thing. Yeah, for sure.
He came out.
Yeah, for sure.
I
Any touch in the knee?
actually looked at it,
Okay.
and one of my friends.
So I told him a little bit about your background, but I didn't tell him some of your special skills you have.
Yeah, I've been involved with mixed martial arts for many years, and so
Yeah, I made a mistake as far as one. That was my first mistake.
yeah.
He could have easily put me on the ground. I would say that. I've got some skills, but that man tops me.
I'm also I teach defensive tactics for the state of Iowa, for the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy, and for the Iowa Department of Corrections. Yep.
How long ago was that fight?
You want to see that?
A little bit ago.
Did you say you wanted to have him show you an armbar?
Search purposes.
No, Brad, show you an armbar. You should go. Come on, Brad. You did it for the last class?
I did do it one class,
Yeah.
just a standing one. But,
Yeah, you didn't take it to the ground.
You want me to show you? Look up. Standing arm bar. What's your name? Marcellus. Nice to meet you, Marcellus. So a standing arm bar has to happen from the elbow and the. It's all about the elbow and the shoulder. You have to lock those out. So first of all, I have to get everything straight, and then I have to get everything up. Now I can use my wrist too, but the straighter it is, I can use that to keep them down like that. See how that works? Yeah, makes sense. If I want to get even more, get it more inside and have more inside like that. And I can actually take his, see his index finger? Take his index finger to his elbow. And just say hi when you start to feel it, okay?
Okay. Like anything? When I
Yeah,
say
just say hi.
okay.
You not feel anything
I
yet?
feel it.
Okay, well you gotta say hi, man.
I didn't really go all the way.
No, I don't wanna go all the way. Alright.
Yes, sir.
Guys, any more questions for Todd? All right, let's give it up for Todd for coming in today.